thank you so much for joining me. This is it's meant to be a relatively brief presentation. I've got 48 slides. I'm going to go right through them. So I'm going to guess about 45 minutes or so, and then ask any questions you want. Just chat them in. I'll take them either as they come or at the end and respond to any questions that you have. This is about the Emerging Leaders Academy program, our leadership development program that's been around a long time. I'm just going to start right into it. First, the first few slides talk about why it's a necessity, why leadership development is such a big issue, and then I'll get in and talk in some depth about Emerging Leaders Academy, what we call the ELA program. No surprise, there's a flood of retirements coming. The baby boomers are moving through, and we're having more retirements of partners in a relatively short window, a 15-year window or so, more than we've ever had in any other similar window in the entire history of our profession. So leadership development is just this big issue across our profession. We do have a concern, and I voice it regularly. It's, have we taken this seriously enough? Have we started early enough? Are we on the right track? Are we developing the right kind of leaders? I love talking to a partner. This is years ago, and now he's a dear friend, but years ago when he was a brand new managing partner of a top 20 firm in our profession, he shared a thought with me that I thought was profound. He said, you know, I love our partners, but I got to tell you, some of them drive me nuts. I mean, there's so many challenges, and if I take all the challenges in the firm, there's so many of them at the partner level, and that just doesn't feel right. And he said, we've been way too casual in how we develop our future leaders. We develop people that are good enough to be promoted to partner, and I want to change the mindset to get on the track early enough to develop people that are the best partners the firm has ever had. I love that thinking. And I think ELA plays well. It certainly does for them, but I think ELA plays well into that concept of developing the best partners your firm has ever had. Let me share some common weaknesses of leadership programs. I'm not going to talk about any in particular. I'm not trying to diss any of them. And these aren't just ones just in our profession. It's just leadership programs in general. And there's really 5 basic things that I think if the program doesn't specifically address, you're not going to get the results that you want to have. They ask too little of participants. If it doesn't stretch and grow the participant, then they won't grow. I think that's logical. I'm going to come back to that when I talk about principles behind which ELA was designed. But one common mistake is they ask too little. If it feels like a boondoggle, if it's all fun and games, so to speak, you're not going to see the growth. They create a disconnect from the firm. If every time somebody receives training, they're off by themselves, disconnected from everybody within the firm, then they're going to be disconnected at some point from the firm, and that's not healthy or good. The learning experiences happen once or twice or 3 times a year in big doses, and there's only so much the human mind can retain, and there's only so much that an individual has time to apply. So sometimes when training happens only a couple times a year, what I'll call the big doses, 2 or 3 days or whatever, then it's hard for that person to have the kind of growth over the course of a year or 2 or 3 years that you want them to have. They focus more on doing than on becoming. I'm going to come back and describe that because that's a little bit deep. And they're expensive. Expensive programs are going to be challenging for any firm because they generally have a lot of people they need trained because of how many people they're going to have move into retirement in the near future. We believe that firms ought to do most of their own training. I mean, I've always been a big fan of that. It's real, it's tied to their values, it's applicable in relation to clients and team members and processes and software and everything else. The challenge is that while many firms have a desire to do a lot of their own training, some either lack the capacity or the focus or the ability or the time to be able to do what they need to do to make sure that their people are trained at a very, very high level. That's really what led us in to developing ELA a long time ago. In reality, it was 5 clients, large firms. Well, not all of them were large, several of them were. 5 firms that were clients, 5 managing partners, all of whom were and still are very dear friends that came not as a group but individually and said, hey, we want to do a lot of our own stuff, but what we develop, everybody goes through. And that probably has its own watering down effect. We want to design something that's just for our very best leaders. And if it comes from the outside, it's easier to put them into and not put everybody into, if that makes sense. And they really were convincing in the discussion about what they needed. So that really is what began ELA. It started that way. In 2007, it has grown every single year. It's currently helping well over 100 firms across our profession. It has close to 500 people in it right now. And those individuals that are in it are selected by their leaders as the best of the best. It's not a self-selection program. It's not a program that we ever expected every firm to put every manager and senior manager and new partner into. We never have had that expectation. It's really a program for those who truly are the emerging leaders, those who are clearly on a path to become leaders and significant leaders in the firm. And for that reason, when you look at the individuals that are in it, it's clearly the best of the best across our profession. There's a sentence at the bottom. The program has been very successful. That sounds like somebody sounding their own horn. Let me just explain. That's not based on what we think about it, although we think very favorably about what it does. It's really based on 2 very simple things. One is those who have been through it, what's it done for them? And we hear from them consistently all the time. In fact, every year now, with so many baby boomers moving into retirement, that means that not only do we have more new partners than we've ever had in the history of our profession, we have more new managing partners than we've ever had at any time in the history of our profession. And there's such a huge list now of managing partners who are ELA alums, since that program's been around since 2007, graduated the first class in 2010. So if you look at that, that's one way that we gauge the success of it, is the individuals themselves and what they really believe it's done for them in increasing skills and confidence and performance and rise in success within their firm. The second way we measure success is largely from either managing partners or senior partners across the profession. What do they say about the program? And what do they say about the individuals? And what we hear consistently is, I see a real change. I remember a top 30 firm in our profession that made the decision. It's probably been 4 years ago now, to start putting people in ELA. And because of their size, they probably put 5 or 6 in a year. And the managing partner wrote me a note last year and said, we've seen a significant uptick in everybody that's been in the ELA program. Thank you. And that's what we hear. And that's what allows us to really say the program's been very successful. I'm going to just walk through the principles of leadership development quickly. I'm going to walk through an overview of the ELA program, share 1 or 2 slides of key dates, and then if you've got questions, I'll just respond to your questions that you have. When I look at what needs to be in a program, what were the principles around which a program is designed to have the kind of success we want to have, and what did we look at in 2007 to do this? The very first thing that we look at is said, I go back to that discussion that I did have recently, well, 5 years ago now, with that managing partner who was brand new then, that said we ought to be developing the very best leaders the firm's ever had. That has always been our mindset. It has to help an individual become, and these are the terms that we use, it has to help an individual become high yield, low maintenance leaders. They've got to be able to really leave a wake behind them of success, whatever it is that they do, whatever area they work in the firm, and they have to be low maintenance. They have to be the ones that are off the radar screen. They have to be the ones that aren't constantly consuming resources of other leaders within the firm. Because when you've got somebody that's high yield and high maintenance, you're always wanting to throw them off the bus. They are the most challenging partners in the profession. So that has to be one of the focuses. The learning has to be continuous. If you want to see consistent growth in somebody, then you give them opportunities for consistent growth by delivering the training and the development and the exercises and the things that they do, the learning experiences, in digestible doses throughout the entire year, not just once or twice a year. Individuals have to apply what they learn after each lesson or session or interaction. That's how rapid development takes place. They're constantly applying what they've learned, not trying to do that once or twice or three times a year. Current firm leaders have to be involved. They have to be connected. They have to do that to ensure that the participants are able to apply the lessons learned within the firm. There has to be some level of accountability. There's got to be somebody in the firm that is connected to each person that is in the training program, closely connected to each person, and understands what they're learning and what they're doing. And this is critical. The program has to be appropriately demanding. It has to stretch an individual. All growth comes outside of comfort zones. If there's any program that allows somebody, while they're in that program, a leadership development program, to stay in their comfort zone, it is going to fail in any kind of rapid or significant development of that individual. The program has to, by its very design, be appropriately demanding and stretch an individual. If they're not feeding the butterflies, they're not growing. It's just that simple. So ELA from its very beginning was designed to be that kind of a program that stretches people. The learning experience has to be customizable. Everybody that's in it is different. They're not on the same track. They don't have the exact same skill and talent and ability and strengths and weaknesses. So the program's got to be easily customizable to meet that individual and ultimately meet the firm's needs. And I'll show how customizable it is. And then you've got to have the ability to track the progress of each individual in the program. Somehow you've got to know, are they getting better? Are they having greater confidence and greater ability? And I'll show how that's done within the ELA program. And then two other things. The program has to be affordable. And we've always believed in the requiring minimal travel. This isn't a COVID thing. This isn't a pandemic issue. Certainly it plays well within that. But we've always believed there ought to be minimal travel, simply because when you have a lot of travel, you have a lot of expense. And the program has to be very affordable to allow firms to put the people into it that they really need to have into it. And then last of all, think about this. I mentioned earlier that this isn't a self-selection program, that this program is for the very best. It's for those that show the greatest promise. It's always been that design. For that reason alone, you would want the individuals within that program to have great opportunities to network with other emerging leaders, to build friendships, career-lasting friendships, and connections with other people in the program, because literally it is the best of the best across the profession that's in the ELA program. So let me then walk through the program and then talk about how we've implemented these principles I just went through within the ELA program. And I take this in really 10 different aspects of it. First of all, everybody in ELA needs to have a guide. That's the connection with leaders within their firm. Every person in ELA needs to have a guide. And the guide is a respected leader in the firm. Most of the guides, if we've got 500 people in the program, we probably have 460 guides. There are some guides that guide more than one person. Most guides are guiding just an individual, but some guide more than that. but there's over 400 guides. Most of them are partners, not all. Most are partners. And as I said, they may guide more than one participant. The guide works with the participant throughout the 3-year program. They help them set and accomplish goals and complete assignments. In a sense, they're that local accountability on the ground. And we provide, Upstream Academy provides guidance and support for the guides. Now, there's 2 levels of individuals that a firm could have that are connected to the ELA program. 3, I guess. They could have a participant in the program. They can have guides. They also could have an ELA advocate. I'm going to talk about them in just a minute. Set that aside. We do provide guidance and support for the guides. I do that. I've done that for all the years that it's been around, since 2007. I do guide training. It's 1-hour webinars. I do them every trimester, every 4 months. So every year there are 3 unique ones. There's also one, by the way, that kicks off the program each year. I'll show you the dates for that and towards the end of this slide deck. And so every guide in our profession gets 9 different coaching sessions that are in depth, that I've been told are the best coaching training in our profession. It's really good in terms of what can they do, what should they do to make the biggest positive difference in the individual that's going through the ELA program. That's how we provide guidance and support, or one of the ways we provide guidance and support for the ELA guides and advocates. The guide's primary role is hold the participant accountable. Work with them and set the goals and the project. We'll talk about that in a minute, and then hold them accountable for accomplishing those things throughout the program. If a firm's going to have more than one individual in the program, and most all the firms do, then they ought to consider adding an ELA advocate. Often the ELA advocate is in the learning and development side of the firm. They're in an administrative role in the firm. The ELA advocate's primary role is to administrate the program, to be the internal point of contact, to know when things are happening, when there's a leadership training forum, when there's a conference, when something's due, how to access it, all of that. It's helpful for firms to have an ELA advocate. All of the firms that are currently in the program have an ELA advocate, and that's really, unless again they only have one person in the program, and then typically the guide plays that role. The second thing I want to talk about is leadership training forums. Typically these are monthly that we provide these. They're 1-hour webinars. They're either led by myself or Tim Bartz or Jeremy Clopton. Jeremy's my successor as I step out of this in 4 years. And it's a forum to discuss principles of leadership. It's very specific things that we're teaching. It's all carefully designed to help somebody become a high-performing leader in the firm, high yield, low maintenance, by design. They are really, really good. Guides can attend them as well, and I hear from guides all the time. Every single year I've done the program, I hear from guides saying, I wish this was around when I was younger. I wish this was around when I was a manager or a senior manager. I'm learning so much from this. This would have helped me so much. We hear that all the time. The leadership training forums are very, very good. The participants receive in advance the PDF of the presentation, some questions to consider about the topic, what each one is a different topic, and other particular materials they receive in advance. We record each one of the leadership training forums, and they have access to the presentation online after the webinar via something that we've designed called the OPS system, the Online Progress Tracking System. I'll talk about that in a little bit in a few minutes. And if you want to get just an idea, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on these, you can get this slide deck and you can get this recording that I'm doing right now. But here's the list of topics to give you an idea. In year 1, we focus on 2 areas of discipline. One is personal effectiveness. What can an individual do to be the most effective they can? And client management, skills. And so these are some of the things: setting and accomplishing worthwhile goals, how to use their time wisely, key principles of time management. We talk about how to capitalize on personal strengths and talents and do damage control in areas of weakness, how to become a recognized expert, how to select and keep the right clients and how to serve them, how to move from a historian to a trusted advisor, and so on. The second year, we focus on team development, how to develop others around you, and business development. And you can see a list of those topics that we discuss on those two areas of discipline. Year three, we focus on leadership and financial management. And there's fewer topics by a few, but some greater assignments that come out of those particular topics. Just a couple things I'll mention about this because they're not on the slides. Again, guides are welcome to sit in on any of these. We encourage guides to at least be connected to these topics, have a calendar of when the participants listening to them, because they're expected to meet with the participant every single month and get a report on their progress and what they're going to do next. And we expect them to do something as a result of each one of these leadership training forums. Let me share that then. The third component of ELA is goals. Leadership skills are best learned by doing. You can listen to 100 TED Talks. You can read a ton of books. You can go to a ton of conferences. You will not develop one single skill unless you do something based upon what you heard or read. That is a fact. And too many people may read, may listen, may attend, but not do. And that's how you learn leadership skills and how you grow. So throughout the year, participants will set and accomplish related goals after each leadership training forum. So the forums happen monthly. So what happens with this process is then with each leadership training forum on a specific topic, say time management, then we talk about what might be potential goals. And at the conclusion of each leadership training forum, the participants select a goal they're going to work on. They look at where they are in their current situation, where they are in their current career. In this case, they may look and say, hey, I'm working from home right now. What are the things I ought to work on for the next 30 days that would help me get better in this area that we just discussed? They're expected to share that with their guide. Their guide can work closely with them to help them select that goal and hold them accountable for that goal. So every single month, they're working on the things that they've learned in the previous month during the leadership training forums. That allows those forums to be very impactful in helping guide and direct the rapid development of skills, talents, confidence, and abilities in the individuals that are in the program. In addition to those goals, each year participants will complete a challenging leadership project. They work with, at least with their guide, but often with the firm's leadership. Many firms do that across the North America that are actively involved in ELA. Even in many cases, managing partners and ECs and others are helping define the kind of projects that would be very impactful for individuals to take on. And they take on a project each year for the 3 years. So they'll do 3 different projects throughout their term in ELA. A good project should stretch them. It should be very specific. It should benefit the firm. It should be very measurable, and it should have a time frame. The time frame is relatively simple. We expect them to work at least 10 hours, a minimum of 10 hours on the project. Many projects might be longer than that, certainly. And they have until the end of the fiscal year. So the program starts in June each year. They have until May 31st of the following year to complete the project. to know whether or not it stretches them. These are just some of the guidelines we give to guides and talk to guides about this, but it's something the individual, the participant hasn't done before. It's something that's not going to be easy. It's going to take their very best effort. It's going to get them to the edge, if not out of their comfort zone. They can't identify every step it takes and so on. That's how you know if a goal is going to stretch somebody. We hear, and we can, by the way, can track through the ops system, the goals that the participants do each and every year, and I'm amazed by what they've been able to accomplish. I'm amazed by the impact it's had on the firm. In fact, I've had so many discussions with managing partners through the years about ELA participants, and the managing partners say, I'm blown away by the capability of these people that we've put in the program. We used to take certain topics and think, oh, these are only for discussions within the highest levels, within the EC, executive committee or management committee. And now we look at these participants and say, why don't we have 3 or 4 of them get together and take on one of these significant topics and come back to us with a recommendation of what they think the firm ought to do. And they blow us away with the depth of knowledge, their understanding, their willingness to really do the trench work and question and survey and gather information and look at alternatives. It's been amazing to watch the impact of these individuals. Again, they're the best and brightest the firm has picked to put in the program, but they have incredible. They're very elastic. They can really be stretched in terms of their ability, and we're completely comfortable if participants work on a project together. They don't have to just take their own project. So it's not uncommon for us to see a project that might have 3 or 4 or 5 participants, if it's a significant project, that work on it together. And each of them are required to show 10 hours of leadership individually within the project. We measure all of this, goals and leadership training forums and the projects and participation in a conference. We'll talk about that in a minute if that happens in this environment, through the ops system. We provide tools. It's a web-based tool called the OPT, Online Progress Tracking System, and it's for participants and guides and advocates. It allows them to track everything that goes on with the system. It's where we post everything. So each participant and guide and advocate has their own unique login ID to it. They also receive guidance on best practices. They can look on previous projects. You know, we've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people go through this program, and so they can go take a look at projects that others have done to get ideas of what might fit them, stretch their thinking, and so on. Everything we do, we post on the ops system for the ELA program, for both the participants and for the guides. So every leadership training forum, every guide training, anything that we do, we post on the ops system, and it's the easiest way for everybody to access it and stay current with it. It also is where they enter the goals they're going to work on monthly. It's where they enter the project they're going to take on. It has tools where they can talk about the progress they're making and be accountable, and we can view that, and everyone else involved in their firm. Not everybody can see everybody's information, but those within a firm that are a guide, they can see the participants' information. The advocate can see any participant's information, as we can, in terms of viewing and watching their progress. Let me talk just for a little bit about item number 6, because in this current world, it's changed a little bit. I mean, going to conferences was just part of what we did to do leadership development and enhance learning and CPE and everything else that goes with it in our profession. And as you would guess, that's kind of changed right now, and who knows what the new normal might be. We do believe in networking. We do think that it can be incredibly helpful for individuals that are rising to levels of leadership within our profession. We think networking is vital. We think it helps them in a tremendous way, especially the opportunity, as I mentioned earlier, to network with other best and brightest people across our profession. Especially, we have ways to link them. If somebody was a transfer pricing expert, we have a way to easily allow them to connect with any other individual in the program, the 500 other individuals who might be transfer pricing experts as well. So not only can they just network with bright, talented, rising leaders, stars, but they also can network in their area of expertise very quickly and easily. The question is, what will happen with events going forward? So I'm going to share the list we have right now of upcoming events in this next fiscal year, but I want to read this paragraph at the bottom. If participants choose not to attend a live event in this fiscal year goes from June of this year, next month, late next month, until May 31st of the following year. If they choose in that period of time to not attend an event because of this social distancing or concerns or whatever, then we will defer their conference participation for a later year so they don't miss that opportunity to attend 3 of the highly rated events during their 3 years within the program. In other words, the program's designed to allow each participant to attend an event each year. We usually give them quite a list that they can pick from, and they attend the one that best fits their schedule and whatever, and I'll show those in just a second. We'll talk about those. There is that deferment opportunity for them because of the current environment we're in right now. Program participants will have the option of attending one of several key UA events this year and our next. Year 1 ELA participants are encouraged to attend one of the identical emerging leaders conferences. I'm going to change that slide if I could. I can't do it right in front of you, but I'm just going to encourage you to check. Year 1 and Year 2 ELA participants are encouraged to attend one of the identical emerging leaders conferences. So let me start with those if I could. If you'll notice, I'll skip the top one. I'll come back to that. Notice there are 3 ELA conferences. We usually list more than that, but in the current environment, we list 3. There is 2 of them that are being held during the latter part of September in Nashville, Tennessee, and there's one that's being held in January in Las Vegas, Nevada. All 3 of those are identical. They're a day-and-a-half conference. They start the first morning at 8 o'clock. Actually, they start the first morning at 7 o'clock with a full breakfast. They start at 8, the conference. It goes until 5:30 the first day. There's a reception that first night, and then it starts the next day and goes until noon. So they're a day and a half. All of them are identical. Each year, we have emerging leaders conferences. We change the topics each year. They're different topics, but the format's the same. They are very interactive. There are a lot of, we give you a problem, and at a table of people, you work to solve the problem, and we take notes for the whole group, and a lot of learning happens. And we've had people since 2007 consistently every single year say, that's the best training I've ever been to. That's the best conference I've ever attended. That's been the most impactful conference I've ever attended. We hear that constantly. We love to have year 1 and year 2 participants attend one of those conferences. One in their first year, one in their second year, if possible. Then in their third year, we don't have them attend the Emerging Leaders Conferences. We have instead them attend either our Headwaters Leadership Conference, which is in July, which did not happen this year, nor did any other conference happen or is going to happen probably in July. And our Best Practices Conference, which again is a day-and-a-half conference that's for the whole profession. We've done that every year, probably draws 100 to 100 and whatever number of people. Has great industry-level speakers. And we usually have our year 3 people attend that conference, as we will do this year, if it in fact happens. Again, keep in mind that opportunity to defer for a year. When they come for free. The only cost they pay are their own travel and lodging costs. There is no cost for them to attend the conference. It's built into the program, but it is an incredible networking opportunity. as well as a great learning opportunity. We hope that those will continue at some point. Like everyone else, at this point, it's a little bit of an educated guess and maybe not that much education about it. We don't know what the new norm will be. So we're keeping that in mind. We have these calendared right now. Time will tell whether they will happen. We hope that they will. Number 7 is again the three of us that are doing the teaching, myself, Jeremy Clopton, and Tim Bartz. Each of us plays to our strength to teach people. We have always had an unconditional guarantee in everything we do. Here's the exact wording. If you're not completely satisfied, we will, at your option, either waive your fee or accept that portion of the fee that reflects your level of satisfaction. We've always stood behind that. We believe that. What we do ought to be good enough that you ought to be thrilled with it and happy to pay for it. If it's not, then don't pay for it. We've always believed that and felt like the things that we do need to be done at a level that they always measure up. There is CPE. There's a credit of CPE for each one of the leadership training forums if they attend the live one, meaning when it happens, rather than listen to the recorded one. They have a responsibility to do that for every single one of them, but sometimes there's a conflict and they can't attend the live one. And certainly to the extent they come to a conference, I can't remember, I want to say 16 credits of CPE for attending a conference, something like that. The investment. I'm going to read this. I don't usually read the slides. I'll read this one. Before May 15th, that's kind of the deadline or the first deadline for registration, the investment for each participant is $3,400 per year. If a firm belongs to Upstream Academy Network, it's $2,900 a year. After May 15th, the price is $3,650 and $3,150 because of the additional administrative challenge that creates because of so many registrants. This fee represents the total annual cost of the program, including the participants' registration at any of the annual events that they attend or will attend. The only additional cost will be travel, lodging, and meals at the annual event. So that's what it is to put somebody into ELA program. It's typically $3,400 or $2,900 a year if somebody's a UAN member. That's the cost. When I go back to trying to design that from the very beginning, that we talked about making it affordable so that firms could train the leaders they need, we believe that we've done that year after year after year, and certainly the results have borne out that that's been true. I want to mention one other thing because of the unique time we're in. As with everything you do, your satisfaction with ELA is guaranteed. So you can cancel at any point and receive a prorated refund. If you've got somebody in the program and for some reason they have to discontinue, or maybe they leave the firm, we will prorate that refund and send that back to you automatically. We also want to offer the option to defer payment for up to a year. I mean, right now, firms are trying to conserve cash. I get that. We recommend that. We have 400 firms that are clients. We recommend they conserve cash and make wise decisions. We've also highly recommended don't discontinue the development of your people. And anything you've done to develop them in the past, do not discontinue them. That will hurt you more than ever help you. To help with that desire to develop people, and at the same point, if they need to conserve cash, we are completely comfortable with you deferring the payment for up to a year. That allows you to be able to put the people in the program, allow them to get the training they need, and defer for up to a year the payment for those individuals if that helps you. You just let us know if you're interested in that option. We are completely comfortable with that. The other thing I'll say about this is not only does this allow the individuals, the rising stars, to get the training they need, but if you really think about this, this allows some of your very best key leaders in the firm, partners and others, to stay connected in the development of those people and to play a significant role. And by the way, all of that can be done remotely. all of that role of a coach can be done remotely. And we're very comfortable. We've seen that happen for a long, long time when we've had a coach that's coached somebody that's been in a very different location that's in the firm, and it's worked incredibly well, and they've done it remotely. So we know it can work remotely, and it's been that way for years and years. Let me just share key dates and see if you've got any questions. Again, chat those in. I'll take any of those that come in. The deadline to register is May 15th. Do we have some people register after that? Yes. We would really encourage, not only does that save money for you, cost for you, whether deferred or not, it saves it, but also it makes such a mountain of the challenge of doing all the registrations and things that come with it. It makes it so much easier for everybody on our team. So we really encourage you to register your people by May 15th. The leadership training forums, those are the dates. So they begin, the program kicks off on June 29th this year. It gives you the dates for each of those in the fiscal year and the times. This class that starts this year will always be at those times. That is 10 Pacific, 11 Mountain, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. That's when their leadership training forums will be held. Not only, by the way, for this year, going forward for 3 years, that will be their time slot. There's an intro webinar for new guides on June 30th at 9 a.m. Mountain. Again, that's 11 a.m. Eastern. It'll last about an hour. There is CPE available for that. The guide webinars have already been scheduled. Those are the coaching training. The first 3 are on July 13th, October 19th, and January 11th. Again, they're a trimester, roughly 4 months apart, and those will always be at 9 a.m. Mountain, which is 8 Pacific, 10 Central, 11 Eastern. So those are the times to remember. And as I already showed earlier, these are the conferences that are currently scheduled. It's our hope that they'll go forward. Again, time will tell, but it is our hope that those will go forward. Nobody can really take even a best guess at that right now. So this is the slide. As I take some questions, I'm going to pop this up in case you want a question that you just want a detailed reply to through email. There's my email address, sam8@Upstream Academy. Let me just take just a couple questions that came in. If you've got any other ones, just send them in. I'll just take a couple of those, and hopefully this will be very brief. What level of person is typically put into the ELA program? It's usually if we looked at the 500 that are in it now, it's usually managers, senior managers, and newer partners. I don't know if it's exactly a third, and a third, but it would be somewhere in that level of experience that somebody would go into the ELA program. Ideally, if I had to pick a time, it would be get somebody 3 years out from being a partner. And this would be the best 3-year development for them to be a great partner in your firm. If I had to pick a time, that would be it, 3 years out from being a partner. We do have a smattering of folks that aren't any of those categories. Maybe they're on the administrative side, maybe they're some other level within the firm, but they're not manager, senior manager, or partner, but most of them are at that level. Next question, is there anyone that we should not consider for the program? Not sure if I'm reading that right. Let me just take what I think that means. If they're at that level, then they're probably at the appropriate level. Is there somebody that you shouldn't consider? Yeah, I would say if they don't really want to work for their development, if somebody's going to be in the program and see it as a burden, somebody's going to be in the program and find it to be irritating, if they've got, in a sense, an entitlement attitude that you ought to just make them a partner, and now you're going to put them in a work program, we would prefer not to have any, I'll use the term prisoners. Nobody wants prisoners in a program. So most of the people in ELA are driven, they're excited, they're seeing personal growth. That is what drives and excites them, as they see rapid personal growth and development and confidence being built from the program. They love that. If somebody's not really willing to go to work, don't put them in the program. You've got somebody that you're thinking, boy, we really ought to have a bus stop, but maybe we'll give them one last try and put them in this program. Don't do that. Just have the bus stop. This isn't like a miracle program that saves a poor performer and turns them into a great performer. This is a program for those who have already shown themselves to be great performers, and this will have an incredible effect on their development. It really will. So I'd say probably that those individuals, in trying to answer that question, if I understood it right. One last question that I see in the program, or that I see on my chat: how much time annually will somebody spend in this program? I'm going to walk you through just a couple things. They're going to listen to leadership training programs. They're an hour each. They're going to meet with their guide every month. That's typically an hour each. You can add these up. So you've got 10 or 12 leadership training forums, 10 monthly meetings with guides that last an hour each. They're going to work on their project. That's going to be a minimum of 10 hours. They're going to work on goals after each and every leadership training forum for the next 30 days. And hopefully, fingers crossed, they're going to be able to attend a conference each year. It's probably going to be in the 50 to 60 to 70 hours each year. We hope and believe, well, we put thousands of people through it, and they've told us it's not additional time, it's a reallocation of other time that they're spending, but that is what they're doing to develop themselves. It is working those kinds of hours throughout the year. So probably 50 to 70 hours, that would be a decent range to look at, that an individual will be spending throughout the year for their leadership development. Again, I hope that was helpful. I've covered the questions. If you've got any other ones, please don't hesitate. Just send me an email. I'd be happy to give you a detailed reply. Best wishes to you. Thanks so much for joining me. See you later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.